Yeah, Merry Christmas, hold the mass. No swinging thuribles, no clerical pass. Yeah, don't sing our hymns with that snowfall there. Keep it crazy Christmas, just no mass.
Pastor Michael, I hope you're having a happy 12 Days of Restless. We may have to decide if there will be some time where our podcast will not be released when both of us have newborn children in our homes around.
We probably will have to have we should just find some stand-ins.
Oh man, that would be so fun to find like poor man's Pastor Michael and Matt to do this.
Even poorer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why it's funny, because it's like, right. It's the old Nathan Fielder thing where they did Dumb Starbucks, Dumb Restless for a month. If you would like to be a host of this show and would like to talk about generically reformed things, and you're actually like relatively trustworthy, you have to be trustworthy. I'm not coming back.
I think especially patrons, right? If you're a patron, especially if you're on the Patreon and you've thought, oh, I'd like to have conversations like this, if legitimately reach out to us.
Or like, let's say you're a young man and you want to start a podcast and want to like be able to promote it from recording something, let us know. That would just be fun to have.
We'll probably need like a month or so of fill-in.
Yeah, so if you'd like to do one or two, it'd just be really fun. It's just a fun idea. So we had it. But Pastor Michael, there's a person we would probably not ask to fill in as a Restless podcast host, because we don't want to start Fed posting here on Restless like they do at TGC. But Pastor Michael, what we are here to talk about today is an article. They're still publishing articles, folks. TGC is. And here's the article they published December 4th, in the year of our Lord, 2025. What Wicca's origins teach us about Christian nationalism. By one Joe Carter. Do you think he's still on staff at the church that David Platt we will be finishing?
I don't know. You got to look.
He still serves as an associate pastor at Mclean Bible Church.
And we haven't gotten to his part of the documentary yet. So,
but yes, that is what we will be getting to when we return back. When we get back from our baby break, and you get to enjoy Dumb Restless for a little bit of time. But Pastor Michael, he wrote nearly a 2,000 word article for TGC, an article that almost certainly neither you nor I will ever read every single word of, to be fair.
I've skimmed most of it.
but Pastor Michael, here's where we're at.
How much eggnog have you had?
Unfortunately, not a lot.
Markle.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot. The issue is, so I quickly did what every rational, critical thinking person does in the year of our Lord 2025. When we have a question, I went and I put that article into Grok Heavy and into ChatGPT, so I'm getting both sides of the aisle. I said, please analyze this article and then tell me if in actual fact there is a connection between Christian nationalism and Wicca. And I will tell you, both of them said no. No, there is no connection between these two ideologies. So Pastor Michael, we'll talk about in a second the analogy he's trying to make here, because then I asked our AI friends about the analogy he's trying to make. But what's going on here? Can you imagine a more like parody feeling headline for a title for a TGC article this year than what Wicca's origins teach us about Christian nationalism?
No, it's funny. I don't know if you noticed that you just took yourself off the screen.
I did. I was trying a new view to see how it would look to have you as you talk.
If it's just me, I feel weird about it.
All right,
but that's okay. So the number one obvious thing, right? You should just be able to spot this if you've been with us for any length of time, this is one of the things that we point out a lot. It's obvious propaganda.
Yeah.
That doesn't even necessarily mean there's not a legitimate truth that we should learn from in here. That's not me saying, well, I'm a Christian nationalist and I'm trying to like get back at Joe Carter for writing this because I'm worried about the influence of the Gospel Coalition and what it might do, No, I'm just saying that in terms of like this is how you write articles. If you are like a major media outlet out of Washington, D.C., and you're trying to get one of your political opponents, it's you make a headline of what if this is connected to this? Right. You tag somebody with something that is distasteful to your audience because you want them to have a predisposition against it. You don't want them to have to really think about it. You want them to automatically reject this, right? What Wicca and its origins teach us about Christian nationalism. What does that do? It's literally telling you Christian nationalism and Wicca, witchcraft, are together, right? Like they are joined together in some fundamental way. So therefore, if you have any connection to Christian nationalism, or by the way, because these people don't distinguish, right? There are many people who would not use the phrase Christian nationalist that they're still going to lump themselves into. They're still going to lump into this same group. But if you are, in any of those groups, if you follow somebody that doesn't mind calling themselves a Christian nationalist, what this is trying to tell you is, that person is like somebody who's into witchcraft.
Right.
Now, one of the weird things about it is it does also come across as like, well, we're learning something from witchcraft.
Right.
I don't think it meant to do that, but it does sound a little bit like, well, we're being taught by witchcraft something good, which is why Christian nationalism is bad.
Right.
It is true, by the way, that the advocates of witchcraft are pretty much exclusively the ones that are lined up on the other side against Christian nationalism.
And
not even a Christian nationalist. I'm just telling you that is the case. The people that claim to be witches who love the blood sacrifice of abortion hate what Joe Carter hates here. Doesn't mean he's wrong. It does not mean he's wrong. But it does mean that when you're kind of taking that side, like, oh, they're teaching us something, it feels a little weird. It feels a little bit like, well, we can listen to them, but we can't listen. How many TGC articles have said what Christian nationalism can teach us about something else, right?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe there's a bunch of them. My guess is it's not often that you put it in that way. What is
so strange? The most interesting thing about this article is that today in broader society, it's way more acceptable for people to like come out and say, I practice Wicca, than we're a person to say I'm organizing Christian nationalist.
Right.
You
would probably receive a lot of NGO money. If that was the case, right?
And aren't you worried about turning off people who are into Wicca if you compare them in this way? Don't you want to reach, it's very silly.
It's sloppy propaganda that we're used to, right? Like we are used to seeing this from the Gospel Coalition. But it does feel like a sloppy kind of propaganda. And here's the thing too, if TGC was regularly interacting with the best voices on the political right and trying to take them seriously, then when you come out with an article like this, you might say, oh, there could be something interesting here.
Right.
But when it's become like a blatantly like leftist, we're trying to convince evangelicals to become increasingly progressive. Yes. When that's the case, all of a sudden it begins to be a lot more noticeable what they're really doing with stuff like this.
Yes. And so what is interesting. Well, no, it's not interesting. Here's what he's trying to do in the article. And now I even think the AI critics actually go easy on him on this point. So here is the analogy that he's trying to put forth, is that Wicca is actually not ancient paganism. It's actually not ancient Norse paganism. I don't know. Some woman started developing this idea, and it's basically a pseudo history. And so she basically picks and chooses these different things from different witchcraft traditions and paganism and says, here is our ancient, this is right. This is this is spirituality, right? This is free spirituality, right? This, the obvious alt emo, Nightmare Before Christmas spirituality that you wanted to rebel against with stuff. And he says Christian nationalism and uses similar arguments to bolster its credibility, that it's based on some kind of fundamentally debunked pseudo historical narrative that America specifically had a Christian nation, right? That it had laws that were trying to enforce biblical precepts, and that this is basically a fabrication in the same way Wicca's the Wicca stuff was a fabrication.
Yep. Here's what he draws, by the way. In saying that, he's the thing that he places on Christian nationalism is that Christian nationalists obviously say that, it's not just that America was a Christian nation, but there must have been this, it must have every single founder. The way he debunks this is, well, look, some of the founders were not Orthodox Christians.
Right.
So therefore, this can't be the case, right? Therefore, they are, it's not like that. The original design was not explicitly Christian.
Right. Right.
I mean, listen to this. The problem, of course, with this idea that, it was an explicitly Christian nation and we should return to it. The problem, of course, is that the version of America never existed. The key founders' actual beliefs were often far from Orthodox Christianity. Okay, who's he going to name, Matt? Just off the top of your head.
Thomas Jefferson, of course.
Okay, Thomas Jefferson famously produced his own Bible by cutting out the miracles. Franklin, in his autobiography, admitted that while he believed in God, he seldom attended any public worship. Washington, despite his public religiosity, conspicuously avoided taking communion and never explicitly affirmed Christ's divinity. Well, okay, that, I don't have a direct example of him saying this, even though, he clearly recites creeds and things like that, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff gets a little wild when leftists do that. But this idea that, hey, there were some men who were not Orthodox Christians, therefore America was not a Christian nation. But every single one of the founders, including those non-Orthodox Christians, believed that they had to speak like Christians in the public square, right? And write like Christians. Alexander Hamilton, famous example. You recently read the biography, right? No, you did John Adams. Alexander Hamilton, he was somebody who in his public addresses, you can see over and over, spoke as if he were a practicing Christian, and in private would mock Christianity. But he had to speak as though he were a Christian until later on he seems to have repented and become a true Christian in some sense anyway, before his duel.
Right.
But you had to do that, right? You read the founding documents, you read this stuff, and obviously they are steeped in Christianity. And so what it seems like, if you read through this, and I did actually read most of it here, is he's saying if there was not an enforcement of Christianity on every individual, which is what Christian nationalists want, according to him, right? If there was not that, and if there was not an establishment of a particular church at the federal level, then therefore we did not have that Christian founding that so many Christian nationalists talk about. The problem with this is, at least a lot of the people they smear as Christian nationalists, I know there's crazy people out there, right? it's a political world, right? The people voting for, the side of the aisle that most TGC contributors vote for are mostly like, they also include, witchcraft and stuff like that. They're not all into witchcraft, but they're Wiccans on the Democratic, party ticket, right? So yes, there's crazy people everywhere. We can all agree that there's crazy people everywhere. But to try to make it look like, hey, people on that side that take that label, all of them, they don't study history.
Right.
It's just kind of laughable because they're the people doing so much of the ressourcement, and trying to apply the principles of the founding era, whether it be, on the Christian side, right, more, on the religious side of how we should think about this theologically, or politically. What did these, men think politically? They're doing all kinds of historical work. You might not like it, and you might not agree with what they, come to believe about it. But it just is it's a smear job, right? It's just taking these people and not saying, here's the best example, and now let me show you why it's wrong.
Yes.
Which is a helpful and good thing to do. No, it's going after on a level of, what if we just made it look like they were kind of like witchcraft?
Right. Because this is the, like, you have no argument thing. What if I just make an analogy that says, think of how bad history could fuel bad ideas. Now imagine, like, right? And that's what you're saying is, like, there was these really bad ideas that were based on bad history. And again, like, there's so many problems with it because, and we aren't going to get to how both Wicca and Christian nationalism lead to anti-Semitism. Like, somehow it happens, everybody. Just, but what Pastor Mike,
right? He goes to the Nazis. He's like, hey,
unbelievable.
Of course they're Nazis. Everybody who takes that label
just
is
like
Nazi.
the Wiccans, are also,
also nationalism fundamentally contradicts all the categories of the gospel.
Of course. The way you actually refute them is you say that they are wrongly using an actual continuous Christian tradition, which is what they're trying to do. Now, here's another problem with this whole analogy. One, so let's use two things. You can't argue for Christian nationalism because that's not what existed at the founding of America. Okay. That would be an argument you can't use to say, right? Like, so just like you couldn't argue paganism's an ancient idea, so we should be able to use it, right? The point is that actually Christian nationalism doesn't try to get its credibility. It tries to get its credibility from arguments, and long sustained arguments that have been found convincing for a very long time. So even if this is why the analogy doesn't work at all. This is an idea of misuse and bad history leads to this. The argument for example, a thing that I'm certain he would include, right, would be James Baird's book. His syllogism does not rely on American history at all. His syllogism relies on the idea that governments, and this is, of course, why he's not making a nationalist argument. He's not talking about what nations in specific should do, but civil magistrates should promote Christianity as a true religion. That would be true or not true. You can pick on his argument if you want, which you don't want to because you can't. And I'm speaking of the person who wrote this article. Regardless of what the American founders did. But the other problem becomes, what about all the obvious countries that literally had state churches, that obviously had completely Christian, like, institutions in their laws, in their states, in their monarchies, in their churches? Can they make those arguments? Because if you're like, well, no, they can't either, then this whole analogy is and this is what it is. This whole analogy is a distraction. It is meant, as Pastor Michael said, to be propaganda. It's meant to confuse and not clarify, and that's why it's bad. Because it has it isn't making any kind of claim. And then here's the other problem. What if a person says, this is, by the way, the problem with the term Christian nationalism is that things have the smoke has risen so high. It's almost impossible to define the word anymore, right? What people mean by it is the other thing it negates, which could be very much true. A person saying, no, when I say Christian nationalism, we are actually talking about what existed at the founding. Whoa, are you saying people with not fully orthodox beliefs might not be banned from public life and put in prison and tried for witchcraft? Well, that can't be what you mean, because that would be something reasonable sounding.
Yep.
What if that is what they want? What if that is what they're trying to articulate to you? And you're saying, well, what I've invented in my mind that looks like witches and you're like on an insane bender, since that's not what John Adams was like, that must not be what you're arguing for. And I've got to tell you. And they're like, well, no, that is what I mean. I am trying to argue for that. And that's why even the analogy, even like trying to, which is a silly thing to do, Even
so silly. It's a silly place. TGC, it's a silly place.
Even to try and grant that this analogy might awaken someone to the problems inherent to this kind of political ideology, you aren't doing it. And by the way, this is only going to push people towards even the radical elements you don't like, because you are saying, hands up, don't shoot. We have no argument. We don't have anything. We have been asked by funders and things that are going to remain in the dark to try and throw something out there. And this is what we've got at this point. Christian nationalism is the witchcraft of political engagement for Christians. That's what we've got, guys. That's how bad this is. That is how bad this is.
Yeah, no, the right way to go about it, pick who you think is the best voice on that side, right? Pick the best voice who's making the best argument, and then see if you can come at their best argument, right? Yep. Try to steel man the case and then go after it. Because what ends up happening is, if you read through this, I think what you'll come to realize is that this understanding, one is there's a kind of, weird, internal struggle, as he's both trying to say, well, the gospel removes all these things that nationalism wants, but also, the nature of, Christian nationalism is also contrary to Americanism.
Yep.
Americanism being, these particular values expressed in the Declaration of Independence, which is interesting that he doesn't include the whole, where the Declaration of Independence starts, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident. Who's talking? Who's right. The we? Why are they doing this? Who are they? What's their background? Like what else did they write? These questions, I think, just bring you to a point of, I think this is just sloppy.
Yes.
Right. It's sloppy. And it is, in that sense, it's clearly a kind of propaganda trying to just smear people. Listen, it's not hard to find examples of crazy people that call themselves Christian nationalists that are, they are like, flirting with or jumping headlong into, Nazi stuff, right? You can find that stuff. But is that the main proponents? Is that the main, kind of intellectual arbiters of these things? I don't think so. I don't think so. We've heard good examples of some of this. So find those and deal with that.
Yeah. And let me add one more thing, because here's one of the other problems with this article. And by the way, if someone out there, I'll just let listeners decide, especially when we have the dumb, restless hosts on, whoever they will be. If you would like someone to describe and be working through his argument against nationalism from Americanism, by the way, that sacred those sacred political principles
that apply everywhere. So
everywhere.
Why don't we enforce those everywhere?
Those that apparently come with the fiat of God that apparently we cannot argue with. What a weird thing to say that those happen to be the politics of God Almighty. What's strange is at the end, he actually makes an argument for a form of Christian nationalism. Let me just show you the pull quote that he says here right at the end. When he talks about not wanting performative Christian nationalism, right? This idea that we actually don't just want all of our leaders and institutions to hypocritically and like just put a Christian stamp on everything we're doing, right? And so this is kind of the argument for disestablishment. And so he says, we don't want an officially Christian nation. We want a nation that's demonstrably Christian. My friend, I can't even believe you don't know enough about Christian nationalism to know that there are a large group of them, and that even the arguments are for disestablishing the churches that existed in the colonies, in the states that ratified the Constitution. One of the arguments for disestablishment was this: we don't want an establishment. We want to continue to be Protestant. We want to be
a truly Christian and Protestant nation.
And so what you can be saying that Christianity, your argument that Christianity should exist as custom, as expectation, as culture, as something that as we seek to evangelize everyone becomes the norm, becomes the principle on which we act, even if we don't add it or change the Constitution, or that's why they didn't in the first place or whatever. I don't know how you think like that's even very different. Yep. All it tells me is you don't know the arguments that are being made on any level. Yep. That all you think about is Calvin and Michael Servetus. This is the only political principle from history you're aware of. That and National Socialism in 1940s Germany. It's just, and this is where it is such obvious propaganda. And I think this is the uncomfortable thing. Everyone here knows American politics are changing. Everyone knows it. And it's making people uncomfortable. It's making some people power hungry, by the way, in ways that kind of disgust me. But everyone is feeling uncomfortable. And so maybe that's the actual thing you need to know. The magic spells, to use an analogy, just a fair analogy, the magic words you're using, the kinds of things, the magic words you're appealing to aren't going to keep working. Like, this is not going to be compelling. If you want to argue for over political theology, which is not something I'm particular expert or interest in, if you want to argue over political ideology in America, you're going to actually have to argue it. You aren't going to be able to use the magic words anymore. I know that's apparently all we know how to do, because that's what we learned from Wicca along the way. Pastor Michael, maybe my definition of Christian nationalism is it's just the friends we made along the way. But Pastor Michael, I know the 12 Days of Restless are just the friends we made along the way. So if you would like to enter a new tier, you can here's your choices. You can either join the patron, or maybe if you would like to be a host of this show, there is a new level where you can become a patron and then just start hosting this show for a while, as long as you do it a little bit worse than us.
And we need some way to verify who these people are.
Yeah.
We need to kind of know you.
We need to know you, or we need like a reference. And I need to like hear you talk about something for like just a few minutes, to like, one, know that like you're sane. That's a big one. The other one is that like you're kind of fun. Like you kind of get it. But I really want this to happen because I want to listen to this show. I'd be so excited about it. And so if you would like to sign up, please let us know. Please come host this show. How many podcasts throw that out? Host the show. We will demand editorial rights and retain all profits from whatever you accomplish on the show. But that is a sidebar. This has been the 12 Days of Restless. We're having fun, and we will catch you guys next time.